Very good evening, everyone. I, Apurva Bedere, host of your evening, welcomes you all to Merge Matrix 2.0, hosted by MLSC GESCOE. Now, I would also like to introduce you to our community partners. Community partners are Google Developers Groups GESCOE, GDG MET, GDG SNGB KBG, College of Engineering, MLSC MVP KBT College of Engineering, and MLSC MCOE RC. Also, let's dive through what is agenda of this evening. We will have a proper overview of Git and GitHub. What is Git? What is GitHub? Git installation and setup. We'll also learn basic fundamentals Git commands. We'll understand Git in Visual Studio codes, how to have a successful pull request. We'll have a basic introduction with github.dev, how you can contribute to the Hacktoberfest Nashik projects. And also, for sure, if you have any doubts, we'll answer those in proper Q&A session. And we'll also give you snippets about the next events. In the last, we'll have a check-in form. Now, let's have a recap of what we had earlier in the Hacktoberfest 2024. So, Hacktoberfest 2024 is a global month-long celebration of open source hosted by DigitalOcean. If you want to enroll and if you want to be the part of this Hacktoberfest 2024, what you have to do? Just register yourself on hacktoberfest.com, and registrations are open till 31st of October. Now, what are basic criteria to be the contributor for this Hacktoberfest? You have to have at least 4 pull requests after registration and before 31st of October with the hashtag Hacktoberfest tag on it. In reward of your contribution, Hacktoberfest will plant a tree on behalf of you. And fun fact, Hacktoberfest just turned 11 this year. Let's have a brief introduction about our today's speaker of the session. I would like to welcome Palash Johri. He is full stack MUN developer at Arthitapai. He is also a data science student at IIT Madras, alumni of Zhejiang University, China, a game developer, and 3JS developer as well. Hi, Palash.
Yeah, hi Apurva. Thanks for the sweet introduction. I just like to dabble in a lot of things, so you might have a lot of points to go through there. But yeah, thanks for the intro, and it's great to be here.
Now, entire session is yours. We have a great audience who is keen, exciting learners to learn from you. So I hope they'll have fun with you. Thank you.
Certainly. Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is Palash, as you can already see, and we're here to do some Git and GitHub. Right? We're here to get into GitHub. Sorry for the pun. But yeah, let's move on to the next slide, please, and let's start with the session. So yeah, Git is basically what it says here. So nothing to be afraid of. Git is just a distributed version control system used for tracking code changes locally. Sounds like a big and scary thing, but what it basically does, it checks to see if you've made any changes to your code. It tracks those changes. It allows you to add changes from other people. It allows you to delete those changes. It allows you to do a bunch of stuff. With this just little algorithm that it uses, that's called the diffing algorithm, and it uses that diffing algorithm to just check out what kind of changes you've done to your files, and that's it, the heart of the Git distributed system. And we're calling it a distributed version control system because it can be hosted on GitHub in the form of repositories. So GitHub is a cloud-based platform that's hosted on the web. It is used for collaborating on Git repositories, and that's what we're going to do exactly here today. And we're going to jump right in. Let's go ahead to the next slide, please. Yeah. So you might say, okay, I still don't get the difference between Git and GitHub. So Git is basically something that you might run locally along with your code, because it needs to watch closely the changes you make, whatever additions, deletions, anything that you do to your code. It watches and it tracks those changes. And GitHub is just something that basically you create repositories with Git, right? So GitHub manages all those repositories all together. So it's a managing system for another managing system. It sounds a little abstract, but it works, and it's simple once you get the hang of it, right? So it combines local code management with online collaboration, like it says over here. Because as we'll see in this session, we'll be able to do a lot of things that you won't be able to do locally so much. But once you harness the power of GitHub, you can really get into a lot of stuff that Git can't do locally. Okay, so we'll see that, and let's go ahead. Yeah. So again, like we said, it's a version control system, and it runs locally. It takes care of tracking the changes that you make, and GitHub is a hosting service. Basically, that's all you need to think of it as. It's a hosting service, and it hosts your repositories, your Git repositories. And yeah, like it says over here, if you have open source projects that use Git, then GitHub is designed to help you better manage them. There's a bunch of other options that you could try. I think the most popular alternative is GitLab, but we'll stick to GitHub for now. Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah, so let's get on to installation and setup with Git. Just allow me to share my screen. Yeah, so all you need to do is just go to this URL git-scm.com, or you can just look up Git on Google and it will take you to this website. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to the download section, and accordingly to your operating system, mine is Windows, let's go to Windows, and you're going to click the appropriate setup, and you're going to download that. So for me, I've already downloaded that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on that and start the installation. Just give me 1 minute. I'll show you that also. Yeah. So yeah, so we're here with the license and stuff. Let's go ahead, and it's showing this checkbox in my window because I've already installed it. You might not have, but for the most part, we just have to stick to the defaults that are presented in this installation wizard. So no need to worry. I'll just walk you through each of the steps. So after the license and stuff, let's go ahead and see how it's going to be installed. It's going to have a Windows Explorer integration. We're going to be able to basically use the local command line and the PowerShell stuff like that with Git. It's going to associate Git files. It's going to associate .sh files to be done with Bash. We're not going to get into Bash today because it's not exactly going to be useful in our use cases. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's keep that as it is. Yeah. So I set the Visual Studio Code as its default editor. If you have Visual Studio Code installed, great. Choose this option. Otherwise, just keep it to the default option and let's move ahead. And you might have either of these over here. Uh, so basically, what happens in Git, we have branches, right? Branches are separate versions of your code that track different changes. Like you have one branch that might track feature A that you're building of your product, and another branch might have feature B. So stuff like that, it happens, and the default branch that gets created, it's usually the norm right now is to name it main, right? So we're gonna name it main, and we're gonna choose this option. We're gonna go ahead, and we're gonna keep this as default. So yeah, we're gonna be able to keep use Git from the command line, and yeah, keep it, stick to the defaults. Go ahead, this is fine. uh, Git is going to use all this stuff to actually connect to GitHub, especially this thing, OpenSSL, because that is what allows your Git, your local installation of Git, to communicate with GitHub, its repository, and push your code or pull your code. Stuff will do, and we'll see that. Let's go ahead, do this. Let's check out Windows file. Yeah, sure. Let's stick to the defaults. Yeah, again, let's stick to the defaults. Fast forward or merge. Yeah, let's keep a default. This is an advanced setting which usually you will not have to face right now, but we will do a git pull and we will do some stuff. We will do a bit of merging, so no need to worry. Let's just keep it to the defaults. And yeah, next we have the git credential manager. Just keep it as it is. Click on next, next, sure. And experimental support for pseudo consoles. Yeah, just have it as it is. And I'm not going to click on install, but you can click on install and you can go ahead and get that done. All right. So I'm going to click on cancel and you can click on install and you can move ahead and you can finish the installation. And once it's done, just give a thumbs up in the chat and we'll go ahead with the next bit. Okay. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. I'm gonna wait for you guys to give me a thumbs up, and then we're gonna move ahead. Okay. Nice. Okay. So I can see some thumbs in the chat. Thanks. Great work, guys. Let's go ahead to the next slide, please. Awesome. Awesome. So I can see people are already working on the local installations. That's great. You might already have it installed because most of you are already working on this stuff, right? Okay, so let's learn a little bit about Git, right? And for that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump right into doing the most important steps that you need to do for Hacktoberfest. That is forking a repo, pulling a repo, cloning a repo, stuff like that. So once again, I'll share my screen and I'll show you how that bit is done. Just give me one moment. Yeah. So let's go ahead to this repository. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in this chat. Okay, I have to give me one moment. Just you can follow along on this URL. Actually, this is a simple URL. This is just a simple repository that I've made for my own use. But let's just see how it goes, and I'll tell you how to actually get into the code right now. So yeah. So I have this repository, right? We have all of this stuff already done for us, which is what you might commonly see when you're working to create pull requests and stuff, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my account. I'm going to switch to my actual account. This was my throwaway account, my student account. So now you can see I have the option to fork this repository because I'm not the owner. I before making any changes, it's very important before cloning, before making any changes, before doing anything, you need to clone that repository, right? So I'm sorry, we need to fork that repository. Then we need to clone that. Cloning is done locally, and forking is done on GitHub, right? So I'm gonna click on fork, and yeah, I'm gonna create a fork. And yeah, now I have my own fork and it says right here fork from this repository, right? So now what can I do is I can actually go over here and I can just, okay, so I have this URL, right? I need to clone it locally. Git clone and enter, right? So get it, it's done. And now just to port git ed. So this folder will be opened in our VS Code. I'm assuming you already have VS Code installed because we're going to be working with VS Code and the Git panel in VS Code, GitHub panel in VS Code. So yeah, let's get that out of the way. And a few stuff that we're going to work on is going to be in the VS Code only. So I'll just cross this out. And yeah, now let's get to the Git basics. Okay. So first command that we need to look out for is git init, right? This is what basically initializes a Git repository, a local repository, okay? A local repository that tracks the changes in your code. And once I click on git init, yeah, Git is already initialized because we've already cloned. So there's already been changes in the repository, so it's already been initialized. If you go and create a new folder locally and you initialize, you run this command git init, you'll see a different message that the repository has been initialized, and that's all you need to do. Okay, and then we're going to be on the same page. I think this is a simple index HTML. You can either use the shortcut, that's the emit abbreviation, and you can use that to create this stuff. It's pretty simple, and yeah, let's move ahead. Let's create a new file and see how stuff is actually tracked. Right? Let's say I have another page called dashboard.html, right? And I'm going to create another page, and it's going to be called dashboard. And I'm going to say get the dashboard, and I'm going to save it. So VS Code, what it does, it's really helpful when working with Git because it provides you markers in the graphical user interface, the GUI. And one very important marker you can see over there is U, right? The file name is green and you have a U marker. And if we hover over it, we can see that the file is untracked, right? Or there's a better command to do that. We can just run git status and we can see that we have a branch called main, which is evident over here, and which we already saw in the repository also, right? It's the norm to name the branches, the default branches main right now. So yeah, we have an untracked file here, which is already evident. This is the dashboard.html. So how do we tell Git to actually start tracking those files? Start tracking any file actually. So we use the git add command. And with the git add command, we can either provide the name of the file, the location, the name of the file, and we can put enter on that. Or a very simple command that you'll probably need to do a lot is this git add dot. It adds all the stuff in your repository, in your local folder, and there it is. It's done. Now you can see the status has changed, right? If you hover over it, we can see index added. Let's run git status again, and we can see we don't have any untracked files as of now, but we do have some changes that need to be committed. That means Git has successfully started tracking this file, and this is the starting version. Okay, this is the starting version of our file, and this is what we'll be tracking. And there's one more thing that we need to do actually, that is the git config, right? So this command is very useful when you need to first connect your local Git process to the GitHub repository, right? We're going to be doing that in just a little bit, not to worry. Uh, yeah, so you can see over here, if I continue, we can see, yeah, so we have the user.name and the user.email, right? So these are basically the only two things we need. We're not going to store passwords locally. We're not going to store passwords in the config, right? So why we don't do that is because of security reasons. I'm just going to quit this using the Q key. And now to change the config, we can do it as git config dash dash set name. Let's say od dash script. Oh, looks like command was wrong. And what Git does over here is we have it's a very helpful utility, right? So it tells you what to actually do. So it's not dash dash set, it's just set. My bad. So let's just do git config set dash dash user dot name. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. And then you just put the username that you're going to be using on your repository, right? That is this username, right? And I'm going to put enter on that. Oh, looks like I was wrong again. Silly one. Git config username. I think that's the one. No? Let's try listing that again. Git config. So that one. Nope. Okay. So in this cases, like forgetful me, what we can do was we can just go and we can look up the git commands and we can do a git config set. Yeah, so we can just do git config. And yeah, this global flag is important when you need to set the credentials system wide. You can or cannot do that. It's up to you because we'll need to sign in uh, the GitHub anyways. So let's go back to this and I'm going to git config. Yes, dash global. Yes, that's actually the command. Apologies. And now if I do git config dash dash list, we can see, yeah, the user.name has been set to holy dash script. So you can follow the same command to start setting up Git start configuring Git. And another value that we do need to set is the user.email because we might have people with similar username, same username, but email really locks it down. And you can put the same email value that you've used on your account minus this, and I'm gonna click enter. And now if I do git config list, we're gonna see that we have all that stuff set over here, right? So now I'm gonna press Q, exit the log, and we can close this tab. And yeah, that's the basic git configuration that you need to do. And once we actually start committing, that is when you need to sign into GitHub, right? And I'm not going to need to do that, but you can follow the steps when you start committing, and you can follow the steps to log into your Git account, to confirm your login, stuff like that. It's pretty simple. You just have to open that in your default browser. Uh, so yeah, that's it for the configuration. Let's go back to the changes and how to track that stuff, right? Because right now what we've done is we've added the file to the stage, so the changes have been staged, the file has been staged, but the changes they've not been committed. So what does commit mean? Commit means that the file actually gets added to the latest branch, the specified branch. Okay, so once I do git commit, and this is a very popular command. We're not going to forget this command. And yeah, we provide the dash m flag and corresponding commit message. Let's say added dashboard, right? Actually, hold on for a minute. I'm not going to commit yet because there's still one thing that we can do, right? Because right now we're working on the main branch, and when you're working on the main branch, that is a disastrous thing to do if you're working in open source, especially because a lot of open source tragedies have been done when people who've been provided access to the repository push directly to the main branch, because the main branch is supposed to be the stable version of that code, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create another branch, and we're going to do that by using the git checkout command, and we're going to add the b flag, and we're going to add the name called dashboard, or rather apt will be feed dashboard, because this is a feature that we're adding, right? So now when we click press enter, we will switch to a new branch, as you can see over here, and there's a bunch of changes also. We'll get to that very shortly, but now we can finally do our git commit, and again this flag added the dashboard, right? So usually you'll only need one message flag, but you can also add another message flag, the same syntax, same rules and everything. And what this does is this becomes the title, the first commit message, this whole thing, it becomes the title, and this second thing, it becomes the content, the subtext. And you can say new feature of dashboard was added. And if I press an enter, so all this stuff has been done to the branch, right? So if we go to the branch, right, we can see we have this branch, and we can see all the changes we've done. So this is the source control tab in VS Code. You can get it if you don't have it currently. You can get it by going to extensions, and extensions, yeah, and you can get it by going to extensions and installing the GitHub extension and signing in. So signing in is important because you need to do that to actually verify which account the pull or push requests are coming from. That's why we are going to sign into our account using the extension. And once you commit, this extension is going to take care of that for you and take you to the browser. I'm not going to be doing that right now because I've already logged in. But once we start pushing, you can see that happening right away. Okay, so how do we push? So right now, if you can see, I do have this code locally. I don't have any status on it, right? It's grayed out. There's no status. So that basically means the all the changes that needed to be made, that needed to be committed, that needed to be tracked, they've been done, right? So if we go back to the repository and if I click on refresh, oh, it's not there. Why? Why is that? Well, for starters, we had a different branch. But even if I go under the branches tab, we don't have our dashboard branch over here, right? Why is that? Because right now we're working on Git. That is the local version manager. That's the local code tracker that just tracks the changes in your code locally, and it's made those changes locally. And you can check that out by going to this folder where you've initialized the Git repository, and you can set the settings in your Explorer to be able to see the hidden folders, and you're going to see this .git folder, right? So this is how the Git's diffing algorithm that we talked about earlier. This tracks all of that. It tracks all the changes, and it's all done locally over here, right? And this is a very little folder. We don't need to be concerned about that. And if we go back, it's not over here, right? We don't need to be concerned about that at all. That's done internally by Git. We don't need to touch that folder, but I just need to demonstrate where the changes are going. So yeah, that was that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually push these changes. We're going to copy these changes over to the remote repository that we have hosted on GitHub, right? That's the Git. Or you could have forked that repository, you could have created that repository, whatever. And an important command that you do need to remember in case you haven't forked it, in case you're creating a new repository, and in case you need to set the origin. That is, right now, because I've cloned this repository from this link, So Git knows that the origin is Git origin. I think this is supposed to be okay. Git remote. Yeah, Git. I think you can see remote origin is supposed to be add set room. Okay, so what you can do is you can use this command actually to set the remote. Git remote add origin, and then paste the URL of your repository. So this is what will start tracking that repository, and I can do it again anyway, but because the remote origin already exists and it's exactly the same as this, so I don't need to worry about this. But in case you're working on a fresh repository, in case you're working on your own code, in case you haven't forked and cloned that repository, you'll need to do this. You'll need to add the origin so that Git knows, and Git knows to connect to the GitHub repository and to push the changes to that origin, right? And it's called origin because it can have code that's the latest code that might be not the same code that you have locally, right? Because locally you might have changes, or maybe the code in the remote repository might have moved ahead. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can do. You can do git push or you can do git pull, right? So we're gonna do git push right now because we need to push our changes from our local development environment to the GitHub repository. So we're gonna do that by using the git push command, and we're going to use the dash u flag. This basically sets the uh, streaming of data. So right now we're streaming the data upstream. That means we're taking the data that we have, we're taking the changes that we have over here, and we're sending them upstream to the origin. So in layman's terms, you can think of it as the flag that tells, okay, I'm going to make the changes to the remote repository and not get those changes, right? So git push dash u, and then we're going to call origin because this is the keyword that's used to define this URL. You can't keep putting this URL over and over again, right? So we just add the origin, and then we just do git push dash u origin, and then the branch that we would like to push. So in this case, I have a bunch of branches, right? If I hover over here, I can see that I have two branches right now. I have the main branch that I actually cloned, and this is the feed dashboard branch that we created locally. So we need to push this branch, and I'm gonna type this out. Then I'm gonna press enter. Okay, so I'm gonna need to continue with my account. This dialog was shown to me because I have another little thing installed, that is GitHub for Windows. Right? So that's the GitHub desktop. And if you have this set up, that's fine. If you don't have it set up, that's also fine. Because the GitHub extension in VS Code that will handle your process of logging in to your remote repository or logging into your account, and that will be it. We need to do this because we have multiple usernames, right? We have multiple accounts. One might be my work account, one might be my school account, one might be my own hobby account. So we need to have GitHub desktop in case you're working in that scenario. But for starters, we don't need to do that. So we need to skip past that. And as you can see over in the repository, feed dashboard had recent pushes 3 seconds ago. So if I click on refresh and I list the branches, so I can see we have a local branch appear over here. Huh. Seems very simple, right? It's because it is. We just follow these very specific steps, and we just follow the commands, we just follow the syntax, and that's all is needed to do. That's all it is we need to do to push stuff. And now, as for the pulling, we'll do one example of pulling that you can do in your GitHub account only. But let's take a little bit of a pause and let's just see if you guys have any doubts, if there's any stuff that you're facing issue with, or if you've done, just give it a thumbs up again. Okay. So let me just stop sharing my screen right now, and we'll just take a 2 minute break and see what you guys are up to. Okay. Yeah. So if there are any questions, I'll address them right now. I think my very helpful teammates, the hosts, they've already answered a lot of the questions. So yeah, okay. So I see a thumbs up. Right. I see a thumbs up. Any other doubts? Any other issues? If you're done, again, just put a thumbs up and we'll move ahead. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Yuati. Swaroop. Yeah. Okay. Ishka. Right. Awesome. Okay. Okay. So looks like we're all good to go ahead. And let's start presenting the screen again. Oh, we do have one more. I see. What's the difference between PR and push? So PR is the GitHub lingo for pull request, right? So pull request, we're gonna get to that right in a little bit of time. Just give me a few moments. Let me just clarify how to pull stuff, and that will then we're gonna get right down to pull request. Because pull request, what it does is like you've seen right now, we've been working on uh, a repository that I forked, right? So what if I want to send those changes back? Let's say I've added this feature of a dashboard base, right? And I want to tell that owner of the repository, that was my other throwaway account, uh, if I want to tell them that, hey, I've added this feature and I want you to take a look at it, and if you think it's fine, then you can add it to your original code. And that's basically how open source works, right? We collaborate, we suggest changes, we suggest features, we add stuff, we delete stuff. So, and all that process is done in a pull request, right? Awesome, awesome. So, okay, okay. So I see I have another question. What is the use of Git? Uh, that's an interesting question. Uh, but I do have another question for you, Kanishka. If there wasn't Git, how would you actually track the changes in your code? And how would you enable developers to, let's say, code remotely? Let's say I have code that I'm working on. Let's say I'm working on the front end code of a project, and let's say my coworker is working on the backend code for the project. So how are we going to keep that code in sync if it's in the same repository, which usually it is, and how we're going to keep track of what changes the other person has made, and how we're going to not delete stuff basically, and how we're not going to remove stuff, add stuff, do any of those stuff without barging into each other's territory, right? If I do some changes in the front end, and if I tell him, okay, make these changes, and if he tells me, okay, make these changes on your side, that's going to be a very hectic and not a very useful way to communicate changes in your code, right? Because I can't go and tell the developer, okay, at line this, line number, let's say 67, go and do these changes, right? So that's why we have this automated system, and that's why we have the diffing algorithm. So the diffing algorithm is a very interesting thing, and you can read more about it. I'll just drop a link in the chat. Yeah. So we have this link. Get that might explain the diffing algorithm. I'll just uh, the hosts will forward it on YouTube. Please do that, guys. And you can check that out. You can check out the diffing algorithm, and it works automatically, right? Uh, and next, let's go ahead to the polling and uh, creating pull requests, right? So yeah, let me start sharing my screen again. Yes. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna create some changes, but we're not gonna do them in the VS Code, right? We're gonna do them in the GitHub repository using the web browser. So how am I gonna do that? I'm gonna go and create a new branch called feet. Let's say, or rather, let's not create a new branch as of now. We've already seen how to do that, right? Let's just go to this branch that I've added, and let's go to the dashboard and let's edit this file, right? And let me just add one little thing, and I'm going to commit these changes, and we're going to use the web browser, the GitHub UI, to actually commit these changes. And GitHub is again going to track these changes. I'm just going to show them right in front of us. Yeah, we can commit directly to the field dashboard branch, or we can create a new branch for this commit and start a pull request, which we'll do in just a little bit. uh, because this is not the real world case, right? You're not going to create branches of yourself, and you're not going to merge pull requests. You're not going to create pull requests by yourself. So let me just commit it on the same branch. This is to show you what happens when the repository has the latest code, and we don't have that latest code locally. So I'll go to the VS Code now, and obviously we don't have those changes right now, right? So what I can do is I can run the command get pull. It's a very simple command, and whatever branch you're on, it pulls the stuff on that branch. And if I press enter, see, we're gonna have those changes copied over. It's as simple as that. Okay, and we can even see. Uh, so right now, yeah, we can see that it was done by me on the GitHub UI, but it was done by me, right? So similarly, if let's say another user, another collaborator on the project had done some changes, and we had needed to copy those changes over to our local environment, right? We just would have just needed to do a git pull command on that particular branch, and that's it. Let's go ahead to pull request, right? So right now we have this get it. This is the repository that's been formed from this repository, right? So I've added this feature, and let's say I want to tell the owner of this repository, I want to tell them, okay, I have created this feature for you, and I want you to add it to your code. So how would I do that? I can't just push that code to their repository, right? Because I'm working on my repository, that is the fork. So what I can do is I can compare and pull request. So let's just click on this, and yeah, I can just add a title to the pull request. I can just say feature added dashboard, right? And I can add another description, no description needed. I can create a pull request, right? It's as simple as that. And there's a bunch of stuff that's going on over here. Uh, we'll get into this. Let me just switch users right now. Now we're on the 21F1 account, right? That's the throwaway account. Now I can see that this user, they've created a pull request, right? So on my code, nothing has changed because they were working on the fork. We were working on the fork of the repository. But right now, if I go to the pull request section, I can see, okay, there's a pull request. So somebody wants to add some stuff to this, or maybe delete, it's up to you. They want to make changes, and they want me to carry over those changes into my original code, right? So I'll go over there, and I can see there's a bunch of tabs over here. I can go to commits. I can see all the commits that they've done, and going to the particular commits, I can see the changes they've made, right? And if I go to the checks, this checks is done with GitHub Actions, right? So we're not going to get into GitHub Actions today. They're done on GitHub only. Uh, but yeah, the actions, the stuff that runs on your code that does some checks, security checks, maybe it deploys stuff like that. Don't need to worry about that right now. And there's the file change, right? So this is an overview of the pull request, right? So now we're gonna try and see. So yeah, as for another thing, we can also do some code reviews, I think. So if we go to the files changed, and if I click on this plus icon that appears when I hover, maybe I can say I can add a comment. So this is how code reviews are done, right? This is a neat little thing that we do when we're working in a team, when we don't want to email them or we don't want to tell them, okay, there's a thing on line this that I want you to check out. We can just add a comment and we can say why. We can just add comments and we can start a review to that comment, right? And this is a pending review right now, right? So either I can reply to it. This is an entire conversation. The person who's made the comment, they can reply to it. I can reply to it. We can close this stuff, and yeah, I can do that. And if I go back to the conversation, you can see the review has appeared over here, right? And let's say if I don't want to worry about all these code reviews, which the developers might do again and again, right? Because this pull request might have another commit added to it when this developer works on that. And these conversations they go on and on. You can see an example of that in any open source repository, in any pull request, anywhere, right? And we can close this code review. We can uh, either close this pull request. We can or we can merge this pull request, right? We can add comments over in the general conversation also. But right now, we're just going to do the simplest thing, that's it, merging the pull request. And it has no conflicts. So what happens with conflicts is a little bit of an advanced thing. We're not going to get into it right now, but let's check out how merging is done, right? If you just confirm merge, I can change the merge title and I can click on merge and this is done, right? So the status has been changed to merge and I can even revert that over here, right? So now if I go to the code, the original code, we can see the main branch. It has those changes, right? Because we only have the main branch over here. So all those changes from the feed dashboard branch they were carried over to the main branch. So this is how in open source or when you're working on code collaboratively, this is usually how you're going to create pull requests, you're going to make changes to the open source code, and you're going to tell them, okay, can you please check this out? I've added this important thing, or I've removed this thing that was redundant or unnecessary. You're going to create pull request, and then the maintainer, the owner of that repository, or the maintainers, the people that have been assigned to the project, they will either make code reviews on that, tell you to improve stuff, or they will merge the request or close the request, right? If I close the request will be declined and the code will not be added to the original repository. Okay, so I think that's it. And if we go back to this, we're pretty much done over here. I think, yeah, I think that's it for now. If there's anything else, let's see if we have any doubts over here. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Yeah, guys, let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you understood everything I talked about. And if there's even a little bit of doubt, just tell me and I'll help you out, okay? Nice. Okay. Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead to the next slide and let's see if there's anything else left to do. Right. Let's move over to the next slide, please. Yeah, so there's this little thing that is called github.dev, right? Uh, this allows you to basically run the VS Code environment in your browser. You'll be able to add your extensions to it, you'll be able to add your settings to it, and you won't even need to install GitHub, uh, VS Code locally. You can work on those changes right in the browser, right? So it's a very powerful tool. But to make changes and to push those changes, you're going to need another feature that's called GitHub code spaces. So that's an advanced thing, but this is just something that that you should know about in case you're working on a project or you need to make quick changes on the code. Okay. Yeah. So I can see some comments. Right. So undoing the the git commits, right? Undoing the right. Okay, so let's address that right away. So the simplest way to do that is, I'll share my screen again. Yeah. So the simplest way we can undo a git commit is just going to this git panel. There's another way to do that in the command line that's called git reset head, and we can add flags to it. That is the dash dash soft. We can add this tilde, that's the symbol that chooses the last commit, right? So there's a bunch of resets that you can do, bunch of undos that you can do. That's a hard undo and the soft undo. The hard undo, it basically deletes any changes you've done. That's a very precarious thing to play with. Don't do that. So the command by default git reset head, what it does a soft reset and it just takes your code to that version of the last comment, before the last comment, right? And if you don't want to do this, if you want to play it safe, what you can do is you can go to the git tab, github tab, git tab and github tab, and you can go to this menu, and over here in the comment you can do undo last comment. This is the most simple way to do this thing safely through the UI, right? And now I can see I have these changes. This is the M, right? The M means the status is modified, right? So I've added that, I've modified the file, but I've not actually pushed those changes or I've not actually committed those changes. So this is how you undo a commit, right? So that's it. And right now, it's uh, very important that you understand you can't just undo a commit and push that code straight away, because again you'll have conflicts, right? So those conflicts, for the sake of those conflicts, I'll ask you not to do the reset again and again. What you can do rather is make those changes or go back to those changes, go to a soft reset and then copy those changes over, because then if you want to make a few changes again, let's say, and if you want to commit these changes and push these changes, you would have to do a force push. Force push means that disregard any changes that have been made in the origin and just push all this stuff, push all these changes that I've done and push them to that repository. And that is a very destructive action and that is not recommended. So again, undoing the git commit, it's sometimes necessary, but generally we try to avoid it, right? So I think that's it. Any other questions that I can answer? Yeah, sure. Drop a thumbs up if you've understood it so far, right?
Audience was pretty active in the comment section. That has to be a credit to you, Palash. Thank you so much for having this session.
Yeah, I think we all had great energy today, right? So
Yeah,
it's
and no
credit to everyone.
doubt the details you had, it was amazing. Even I brushed up my concepts. So thank you.
Sure, sure. It's a pleasure because when working in the real world, it's really, really important to have your basics tied down. And if you don't remember anything, just do what I did, which was silly of me.
Yeah,
But it's a very simple thing. You just need to Google it and just you just need to see how stuff works, right? That's a
yeah.
very normal thing to do. Even I do Google stuff daily in my work, so that's a very normal thing to do.
Thank you for all your insights, and we'll have a dedicated Q&A session. So all the
Certainly.
audience which are live right now, please keep your questions ready. We'll have that in Q&A session. Till then, we'll take Arya on screen. We have Arya today,
Yeah.
who will tell us about all the projects that we have that everyone can contribute in Hacktoberfest National.
So thank you, Apurva, and thank you, Palash, for a great session on the GitHub and Git. So
Thanks, Arya.
hello everyone. I hope everyone is still with us. I can see the comment section is very active today. Everyone is doing the hands-on session with Palash very actively. Yes. So like you have learned now that how can you contribute to the open source how can you do open source contribution. So we also got some projects for you listed on our GitHub page that you can contribute to. So I'll just share it. Yes, the link is also in the chat box, and I'll walk you through the repository that we have created and which has all the projects listed on our GitHub. Can we have the link? Guys, you can also scan the QR code for the GitHub repository if you want. Okay, also an important thing that before contributing to the repositories on our MLSC GitHub page, you need to register yourself to Hacktoberfest Nashik. The form link is also given in the description. Okay, so here we have our Hacktoberfest Nashik repository. So for now, we have listed the projects that we will be hosting on the Hacktober with the Hacktoberfest tag on our MLSC GitHub account. So if you go through this repo, you can just see the projects hosted for Hacktoberfest 2024 Nashik. If you click here, we got projects from MLSC GSCOE, also some projects from GDG Met, and some upcoming projects from GDG GSCOE. And you will also get a direct link to those projects which are hosted on this repository itself. And for the contribution, you know that you can just click on any of the repo you like. For example, I click on this pixel stack repository. Here it is. And like Palash explained, yeah, you can just fork this repository, then you can clone this, and for the every process that each and everything that Palash explained, how we can contribute to open source. And every day, some issues will also be listed over here. So be sure to keep checking these issues and make maximum pull request you can, because we not only we have quite a good number of projects over here. Like we have just 4 projects listed for now, but the project count will be increasing. Okay, so I hope that everyone will contribute to these projects. And before contributing, make sure to register for Hacktoberfest Nashik 2024. So I hope this repository is also clear to everyone. And I get a thumbs up in the chat box. All the links that you will be needing for this session are provided in the chat box. The registration link, the attendance form, and also the repository link. Yeah, I can see some thumbs up. I hope that everyone is clear with all the open source contributions in the Hacktoberfest Nashik session. Yes. GitNoob has shared his real name in the attendance form. That's nice. Okay, so we can now move further in the session. Yes. So
Thank
we
you,
have a check-in from
Ayo,
here.
for having that repo to rescue us. So all of us can have that easy peasy repos and easy peasy projects where we can contribute and we can be also the part of this Hacktoberfest. Thank you so much for that. Okay, guys, big announcement right here. So just be alive. The announcement is that many of you asked us that we are attending sessions. We are pretty active with Hacktoberfest 2024. What are perks? Like apart from Hacktoberfest, which is hosted by DigitalOcean, what other perks we have? So biggest perk that you can have is a certification, right? So the Hacktoberfest Nashik will be providing you the certification of being participating in this Hacktoberfest 2024. So let's understand little eligibility for this, for being eligible for the certificate. Basic eligibility is there. You have to attend at least 2 online events and 1 offline event amongst all the events that we have planned for you. So what you have to do, how your attendance will be marked, it is exactly in front of you. Just scan the QR code. This is your attendance form kind of thing, and it will be live just for 30 minutes. So make sure you're marking your attendance so we can track your attendance throughout the Hacktoberfest and you can be eligible for having the certification. That's it. And you can flex that certificate on LinkedIn as well by tagging Hacktoberfest 2024 Nashik and all the hosting collaborators as well. Can we have a next slide? Don't worry, guys. This same check-in form, we have provided the same link in the description and in the comment section as well. So don't worry for the QR code. Next, we have a Q&A session. So two speakers of the day, starting with the Palash. You can ask whatever questions you have, whatever doubts you have regarding Git and GitHub, also about the open source contribution. And any question you have, just have this in the comment section. Our backend team will display it on the screen for you, and answers will be also given. So we have a question from Sriram. Hey, as per your criteria, I have to attend one offline event to get certificate. Unfortunately, I can't attend the offline event. Is there any chance to get certificate? Okay, we have a solution for this as well. Then please be attend for all the online events And yeah, that could be the rescue for you. And yeah, basic for pull request as well. Any other question? If you have any doubt, let us know in the comment section. The session was so good that you don't have any doubts anymore. That's great. And what about PR? Question from Swapnil Gai. Can you just elaborate? Tanishka Patel, we have a question. Offline events is in Nashik. Yes, we have. We will be revealing the venues very soon and details about the events. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Thank you, Gunjan. Okay, we have a question from Kushal. What can I do in I am in a first year and not have a laptop? Okay, we have Palash to answer this question. Can you, Palash, please?
Yeah, sure. So, hi Kushal. I'm glad you've started on this journey with Git and GitHub. I'm really glad that you've shown the initiative to continue on this journey despite not having a laptop. So having a laptop would definitely make things easier. But what you can do for the moment is what I showed you exactly in the slide before. That was github.dev. If the presenters can bring up that slide again. So you can go to github.dev and it works in your mobile browser too, right? So you have Chrome on Android or if you have Safari on iOS, whatever, just go to github.dev and it will actually run a VS Code session in your mobile. How crazy is that, right? So you can actually code using your mobile phone too. I wouldn't recommend it. The screen aspect is really small. You'll hurt your eyes doing that, but it is a possibility if you don't have the means necessary to work on a laptop, right? And as for committing and stuff, I mentioned that before that you can use another feature of Git called Git Code Spaces. And if you're part of the GitHub Student Developer Pack, you get a bunch of GitHub Code Spaces, which is basically online remote virtual machines that you can connect to, and you can connect to those from your browser also, right? So I'll just send the link in chat, and you can see that link and you can go to that link, check that feature out, and using that you can actually work on GitHub using a virtual machine. That's again another awesome thing. You can run VS Code in your browser, you can use another virtual machine on the internet that GitHub is provided. There's a lot of crazy stuff that you can do even without a laptop. So just get onto it, Kushal. I'm rooting for you.
We have a question from Gunjan. Don't know much coding, scared of doing PR. Any alternatives?
Yeah, sure. Uh, that's completely fine, Manju. You don't have to know code to contribute to code because in the world of open source, there's a lot of stuff that you don't need to know code to help out with, right? So there might be discussions that are going on, there might be documentation that needs to be corrected, that needs to be analyzed, that needs to be that maybe that's old, that's redundant, that needs to be removed. So you can check out the open source repositories which have actually opened up issues, and you can go to the HacktoberFest website and you can check out their tags. You can go to GitHub, you can find the tags and you can go to the good first issue tags. There are pretty good issues for that, and there's not a lot of those which will lead you to code. You can also edit the documentation in that. You can participate in the discussions. So there's a lot of meaningful ways to contribute apart from coding. Okay, so don't worry about that. And if you are feeling a little bit confident, you can create your own repository, right? Start with the small steps. Start working on your own repository, and if you feel confident enough, definitely I would suggest you to actually add some code too. And that's it.
We can consider
All the
that as
best,
a
Kunjan.
non-technical contribution, right?
Yeah, certainly, certainly.
So we have a next question from Yash. If we are not able to be present on an offline event, can we get the participation certificate? Yes, I have already answered the question. You need to be a attendee for all three online events, and we will have that certificate as a participation certificate. And the certificate for pull request, if you clearly complete the four pull requests, that certificate is different. Can we have a next question, if any? Thank you, Akhilesh. Complete credit goes to our amazing speakers of the day. Yes, Shriram, certainly. We'll share all the links, the repo links of MLSC GESCOE on WhatsApp. So make sure you are doing 4 PR requests there so you can be eligible for the certification. That's surprise for you guys. That's surprise for you guys. Bhagesh, so that's completely a surprise. So wait for it. Stay tuned. Do we have any more questions? Okay, our backend team will work on it. Piyush, for sure, will have the correct links. Tanishka Patil, how to get online session links? Please be connected us on other, on our other social platforms like Instagram and WhatsApp community. We do provide time to time updates there. Okay, I think there is a little confusion for the certification part. Let me explain it more brief. It's certification of participation if you attend 2 online events out of 3 and one offline event out of 2 to earn this badge of honor. Also, certificate of achievement where you have to do 4 successful PR across any project on official GitHub handle of MLSC GESCOE and other projects in the list. So make sure you're doing all this, filling this all criteria, and you will have the certification. I hope now everything is clear. I'm sorry, Yash, you won't be able to have the certification as the registration link, rather attendance link, is only live for 30 minutes after the event. So we are sorry for that. Okay, I think we should proceed with the session now. As I see, we have no more questions. Yeah, next event. That's the surprise again. We have so much surprises this time for you guys. So next event we'll update it on our social platforms. Make sure to follow us there and be updated about the next events. Thank you, Bhagesh. Yeah, now as I said, we have so many surprises arranged for you. So connect with us. The QR is right in front of you. Also, all links are there in the description box. So make sure you are checking them out, following us on our socials, connecting with us on our WhatsApp community for time to time updates. And here's the wrap for the great evening, for the proper Git and GitHub evening. All thanks to Palash Johri and Aryo for being with us. Yeah, being with us, being a great speaker for our audience. And we are here to host more such events for you. So stay tuned, guys, for more such events and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you for being active.